Okay, so back to our two solutions, and remember anything that dissolves in another item we're going to call a solution. So I put a lot more food coloring in here, and I kept the same amount in this one. And what you're going to see is some words here. We have this is going to be considered concentrated versus, you can't see that, hold on. Concentrated versus dilute. And concentrated just means there's more. Like it's, I always think of it about like thickness, and I know that's not right, but I think like the particles in here are thicker. There's a lot more particles floating around, so it's more concentrated, and this is more dilute. So like, you know, when we did the experiments and we were like pouring stuff down the drain to get rid of it, certain things are safe to be poured down the drain, but you still shouldn't pour them down if it's very thick. So I don't know if you recall me in class, as I poured things down the drain, I would always run water with it. So it was just a matter of diluting it, and it's spreading out all the particles a little bit more, so that it's not as strong. You know, just like anything. Hot sauce. If you were eating hot sauce and it's burning your mouth, if you diluted it with something, you mixed it in with something, it's not going to be as hot. What about lemon juice? Lemon juice is very sour. Let's say you made lemonade and it was very, very sour and you couldn't drink it. You would dilute it. You would probably put more water in it and spread out those little particles a little bit more, and then you would be able to drink it and it would taste good. So I think you've seen this before, but we're going to use some other words. Um, so the more stuff that's in it, this will become more saturated. I wonder if you would agree with me if there's a point, like if you're sitting there and mixing salt into water and the salt's dissolving, would you agree that there's a point when the salt will quit dissolving because it's like there's too much salt in the water? And that is when it has become saturated, when there's too much stuff dissolved. Unsaturated would be when there's not enough. And you've all probably seen it when you've tried to dissolve something where there's some particles left at the bottom. And if they refuse to dissolve, then that solution is saturated. You can't dissolve anything else into it. It's done. Okay? So as far as this goes, the more concentrated it is, there's more particles. There's more particles of food coloring swimming around in this one. There's less particles swimming around in this one. Sometimes you will want something concentrated, sometimes you won't. And the more concentrated it is, the more saturated it will become. And then the unsaturated would be over here. So as far as dissolving, things that you have to take into consideration. Heat makes things dissolve faster. Cold makes things do not dissolve as fast in cold. If you've ever I don't know, been baking, like there's a recipe I use, I have to dissolve sugar into water. I always heat it when I dissolve it because the heat allows the sugar to dissolve faster. So heat helps things dissolve faster because heat is energy, and energy helps. And then there's also the amount of stuff that you're able to dissolve. There is a limit. And anything that you're trying to dissolve, there's a limit to how much stuff can be dissolved in there. It can become more concentrated or less concentrated or dilute.